Everybody, TK here, TK and Drinks. Welcome to Inside the Mead Maker Studio, where we dive into the world of mead. Whether you're a seasoned brewer or curious about the craft, just join me as we explore the art, science, and passion that fuels this ancient drink. In each episode, I'll be bringing you insights, interviews, and everything you need to know to enrich your mead experience. So let's get started. Oh, appreciate some people popping in. Oh, the homie Nick. Appreciate you, dude. Miss you, love you. John, Dad, what's going on? Aw, I love you too. All right, tonight we are going to be joined by hopefully Jeff from Melchemy Craft Mead up in Carson, Washington. They are on the Columbia River, about 60 miles northeast of Portland, Oregon there. So we're going to be getting into some small town mead and hopefully, again, he's able to join up on in here. Tonight, I'm not drinking any mead. Stopped by the local brewery, picked up 6-pack of their New England IPA, 6-pack for $12. You cannot be bad at that. It's very basic and entry level, but like I said, for $12 for a 6-pack, you really can't beat that. Interconnection Junction sent me a live request. I don't know who Interconnection Junction. Oh, it says Jeff, so that's got to be him. So let's go. Possibly. Hello. Sometimes it does connect me without connecting the video as well. I'm accepting another live request. I was expecting it to be from the meadery, so this is a bit peculiar, but yeah, it's definitely not letting you in there. Interconnection. Um, maybe you have to, if this is the right Jeff, maybe you have to I don't turn on your uh, camera or something. Maybe I, I don't know. Yeah, let's go ahead and just cancel. Let's see if I can send one. Cancel that invite. Send another one. What's going on, Private Gold Wines? That's the right, Jeff. Awesome. All right, cool. We got that figured out. Now, if we can just get the video connected, we'll be in business. Hey, there we go.
Hey,
Second time's a charm.
all right.
Excellent. Well, everybody, this is Jeff from Melchemy Craft Meads, again up in Carson, Washington, on the Columbia River, just about 60 miles northeast-ish of the Portland metro area. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ty. The
Oh, not a
volume
problem.
isn't great, so I might have to have you repeat stuff from time to time, but so far I can hear you.
Hey, man, whatever we got to do to make it through. So, Um, you've been making mead for what I can see, at least been an online presence for about 18 years, or since 2018. Why don't you go ahead and give me a little background about yourself and the meadery, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Yeah, myself and my business partner Tim, we started this as part of a land project that we got into with a bunch of friends way back in 2016. And we want to do kind of the hippie commune thing. We're gonna get out of the city, get out into the country, get some land, grow some food. There's a bunch of other uh, interests and skills that folks had that they wanted to bring to the land. And I had been making mead for a number of years prior to that. I got my start. Um, I was a home brewer for a few years. And then I had joined, I basically moved into this household in Portland that was the house of this lady who was like an excellent and expert herbalist. And
Whoa.
she grew all kinds of food and stuff. So I just started picking up some skills from her, learning, some of the tricks of the trade, got into herbalism, and then basically my love of brewing and brews coincided with my interest in herbalism, and I started combining the two. And then I started learning over time that that was actually a thing years and years and years ago. A lot of herbs and medicinal herbs were taken through beverages, through alcohol, beers, meads, wines. A lot of them have their origin using herbs that had other benefits besides just flavor or
Just to get
intoxicants.
intoxicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, stacking functions, and I thought it was great, and I just kept going down that road and doing all kinds of experiments. Everything I could find, I was throwing into a new batch of mead,
Cool.
and seeing how it turned out. And eventually, I was getting really good feedback. I started taking it to different gatherings I was going to. People were wanting to trade, barter, buy it from me. So I ended up taking a small business course. Still unsure that I actually wanted to go the business route with mead, but it was offered, and I did the course. It provided a matching grant, so I got a little bit of money to invest in my new business, and then so move into back into that friends moving out to the country, wanting to get some land. It ended up in the end just being Tim and I through a bunch of different auspicious circumstances. Got a chunk of land out here in the mountains, about an hour from Portland,
Yeah.
and hit the ground running with starting the meadery, because for me that was it was kind of a turnkey, shovel ready, so to speak, thing that I could start out here and start making some money that I felt like had a chance to survive versus other things that we could have done out here being so isolated and far from civilization. There
Yeah.
just is a lot of opportunities to find employment, and I had been keeping bees too for a number of years, so really got into expanding my beekeeping operation, doing a lot of hand harvesting of ingredients out here in the mountains, just wild crafting and combining all that together to come up with some good meat recipes.
Very, very cool. So you've been home brewing for have you been home you started home brewing in 2016, or that's when this whole thing together, but you've been home brewing since longer than that?
Yeah, no, I've been home brewing since probably 2005.
Oh,
Uh,
there you go.
yeah, so it had been like 10 years leading up to actually starting the business, or even thinking about starting the business.
Gotcha. And then after you met up with this master herbalist, so have you made other herb infused beverages as well, as like a what's that they call it, like a digestif or an aperitif or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. We actually we some of our meats we have had put through stills.
Ooh,
So
that's always fun.
some of the stuff, yeah, if it doesn't turn out so good, some of the stuff that's got extra dregs, whatever, we pass it along to somebody that we know that has a still, and they've produced some alcohol that I've then taken. We call it mead shine, and then we take
Yep.
use it to, as you said, make these concoctions that use herbs and other things that help with digestion, or again could be considered medicinal or
Mm,
what. They're not something that we sell officially, so that's
sure.
kind of again a homebrew thing of interest, that it complements the mead. It's a way to use some mead that we wouldn't otherwise drink, but
Yeah.
it's we've come up with some good stuff.
It's a cool side to the business, and it gets to flex some skills and get to do something and a little bit different from the day to day stuff, and a little more, probably a little more of a like passion project type of thing.
Right, right,
And
yeah.
I see a ton of barrels behind you there, so I have to assume we have some cool barrel aged meads and possibly other cool things. Do you do fruit wines and grape wines as well, or ciders?
No, no, everything's mead, but it's all variations of
Cool.
mead. So, yeah, we do barrel age almost everything. We've started doing a tej, an Ethiopian style
There you
mead.
go.
That one's not aged. That one's good to go, right after fermentation. And it's a
Hmm.
little sweeter than we normally do. We like to keep things dry. So we're typically letting everything ferment as far as we can get it. And then once that's done, it's stuck in a barrel for 10-ish months.
Oh, wow.
And me, for me, I found that my preference with mead is definitely a drier mead and definitely barrel aged.
Okay.
At least aged. I think age does beautiful things to mead, and
Yeah.
so I'm pretty insistent on mead that, for the most part. Again, the Tej, um, it's traditionally drank right out of the fermenter, so it's trying to stay true to those roots to some extent. We don't barrel age it, but I have had some that we have aged, and I think it's better. But we don't have to do that with the Tej. But everything else, we do some bourbon barrel aging stuff. So we have two different meads that are stuck in bourbon barrels. That
Nice.
gives them bourbon quality to them. Really complexifies the whole combination of buckwheat honey that we use in those, and the
Oh wow.
berries, and the other stuff. So that one, we really have a lot of people that gravitate towards the bourbon barrel aged stuff. But that's
Yeah.
kind of and now
Right here.
barrel find bourbon barrel more. Like everybody's going for them.
Oh yeah. Bourbon barrels like to me is like an instant like flavor enhancer booster to any like I can't think of a mead profile that wouldn't or couldn't be enhanced by a bourbon barrel aging process. It goes well with pretty much everything, but that just might be my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly come across a lot of folks who don't like bourbon,
Yeah.
and so they pretty much know. And it's a little bit of a prejudice because they'll go into the sampling and they'll be like, "Oh," and I'll tell them this is a bourbon barrel aged mead, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like bourbon," and pretty much
Yeah.
across the board they won't like that mead. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. One of the more interesting things I've experienced in this journey is how different everybody's palate is.
Oh,
How
absolutely.
much of a different experience of so many people have with the different mead flavors that we do. And we get a lot of that because we sample a lot of meat. We're at farmers markets through most of the year, every weekend, and we do a lot of samplings at stores, tastings, and stuff. So we really get a lot of feedback from folks, which has been helpful, and it's also been really fascinating.
And you guys, from what I see on your from the pictures you post online, do a significant amount of foraging, I would say, or self-harvesting. I don't know what the technical term for it is, but you seem to go out and gather a lot of ingredients under your own power. I see with like buckets and out in the gathering, bog cranberries and hawthorn berries, elderflowers, out there collecting all this stuff, and that shows a real dedication to the craft.
Yeah, it's an important piece for us. We typically call it wild crafting, but you're right on the mark too with foraging. It is foraging. It is harvesting from the wilds.
I like that wild crafting. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, because you're out in the wilds, and there is a craft to
Yeah,
it. It is part of the overall craft of making something from what you find in the
yeah,
wilds.
yeah. I like the
And
connotation that comes with that better than foraging.
yeah,
Foraging sounds more like a survivalist thing out there, but this, yeah, wildcrafting is you're going out there and you're collecting, um, nature's bounty to to hone it into a finely crafted product rather than just doing something to get by. This is a labor of love and passion. You're out there searching for the best quality ingredients you can find to make your meats.
yeah, yeah. There's an element of self-restraint in there too, because you can't just in foraging, you're just surviving, so you just eat all your berries.
Right.
But when you put the craft into it, you got to save that for,
Yeah.
your next step, your product. So,
It's being a good steward of the land to be able to, um, make it so other people can enjoy those things and you yourself can enjoy those things for years to come.
yeah. Well, one of the more important pieces for us is capturing the both the sense of place and the what is referred to as terroir and wine lingo.
Yep.
That taste of place, the unique elements all coming together in a place to express a unique flavor profile.
Yeah.
And so for us, it adds another layer of um, the connection that you get with the flavors, connection with the origins of those flavors.
Yeah,
Um, and we've found that, there is significant difference between, blackberries from a farm and blackberries from the field, and
absolutely.
hawthorn berries from the city and hawthorn berries from the mountains.
Yeah,
And ingredients for me are vitally important. Sourcing fresh ingredients, using stuff that's as close to the origins and source from where they're grown.
yeah,
And we do get stuff from farms. We support local farms as much as possible with the things that we don't harvest ourselves. But we've also started growing some things on the land here that we can use. Um, so
cool.
yeah, it's been an interesting journey that way. I'll also say though that the TTB has been our nemesis in getting approval for a lot of a lot of ingredients.
I
So
can
a lot of the things
imagine.
that I used to use, a lot of the ingredients that I felt most connected to, things that for me energetically, nutritionally, medicinally were powerful herbs and plants to work with.
Yeah,
And I those into mead, and then found out later when I went pro business owner,
yeah.
I couldn't use those things and make mead with them. So we've had to switch
If only
a
there
bit,
was an
be
yeah.
resourceful.
If only there was an organization out there who was dedicated to helping, like, legislate like pro mead laws and stuff like that.
You say that as if you know somebody, or talking about
I
something.
always just slide against the AMMA whenever I have a chance because I don't like their program because they say that they legislate for things all the time and they never do.
Yeah,
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 and it's something that needs to be done. You point out, you make a very real point that a lot of people face is that there's a lot of ingredients that um, are I don't know what the term for it is, illegally used, banned, restricted substances, whatever. There's a lot of things that commercial beer makers are prohibited from using because, um, for what, lack of a better term, blue laws, just because that's how it is for no real apparent reason. And a lot of the times the people that you're dealing with at the TTB or with cola with label approval and all these different things, they're not meat experts, not even alcohol experts. A lot of times it's people that are just have bureaucratic jobs that are doing it for a job, and it just happens to be alcohol related. So a lot of times you have to educate these people, and it becomes a whole process. And um, I feel for commercial mead makers in that sense.
amen, brother. Yeah, I could talk to you all night about that, about the
Oh
challenges we've had. I agree completely that there needs to be an organization that's doing more and better to really advocate for the uniqueness of mead and exactly what would benefit mead makers
yep.
specifically,
Oh yeah.
or be relevant, just straight up relevant to the industry of mead and mead making, because it's so different from wine or beer or cider, which we always get clumped into
Right.
those categories. And it certainly has limited us in a lot of ways that is just not logical. It's not. There's no argument for safety to
Yep.
be made. There's no argument for protection of specific
Yeah.
whatever right or designations. They call it appellation of origins of grapes. We
Right.
can't talk about where we get ingredients for our stuff
You're not
because
allowed to
it
put a
might.
vintage on there because there's no venting being done.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. It doesn't apply.
stupid.
It doesn't. Most of those things do not apply to us specifically, and yet
Right.
they are the law to follow.
Yeah. Mead falls into this niche kind of subcategory where it's mostly wine-like, but the wine industry bastardizes it. The beer and cider industry kind of, begrudgingly at times seem to, kind of carry us with them. But you're right, 100%. There needs to be, it needs to be kind of separated into its own thing altogether. Like, if you wanted to make a root beer mead, all these different, herbal things that you'd want to throw in there, that's a very herbal forward thing. You could even call it a root beer mead because on the label you couldn't put root beer because there's no root beer in the
Yeah,
mead.
yeah. Oh man,
It
we struggles just calling mead.
oh yeah,
One of my favorite one of my favorite suggestions by the TTB was after they rejected us calling a mead, suggesting that we call it a hold on, let me see if I can get this exact. It was a substandard honey wine. And I was like, really? That's gonna come across
substandard. How did you not smack
brilliant.
that guy through the phone?
Substandard. Is that all you got for me? Like it's just weird.
Substandard.
Yeah, substandard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and that's just some dude that you got paired up with that time at the TTB. Had you called some other time, it could have been somebody who had some other, name that they wanted you to call it, but equally as, as ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. Yep. There was a whole lot of that. It still continues to be an issue, but over time you kind of figure out ways that you can navigate that.
Hooray for
And
loopholes.
there's loopholes, but there's also strategies to how you present stuff. So
Yeah.
it does check the boxes or avoid the normal pitfalls, but it gives you a little bit more freedom to express what you truly are
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
which is for me important because I want I want to be transparent. I want to be honest with people about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if I'm, restricted from doing that because of some non-relevant rules and laws, then it just seems like it's a disservice to the customer.
Yeah. Arbitrary things are doing way too much harm. But one of the things I've noticed that you like to do is what I consider actually an incredibly bold move, and I'm kind of curious of how you came across upon this decision. But your bottles are all printed labels. I don't mean like they have printed labels on them. I mean the glass itself has like screen printing or silk screening or something on it. Like that's a commitment to a bottle, man. That means you can't put other mead flavors in that bottle. That means you can't. I mean, to be honest, they look beautiful. I think there's some phenomenal looking bottles. It's just that to me it seems like a really risky commitment and expensive one at that.
Yeah. Well, my business partner, so I was, I brought the mead making and experience with that to the table. He had more background in marketing and
Oh,
advertising and
oh, there
graphic
you
design.
go.
So yeah, we, free graphic design. So we were able to geek out on that and really come up with some cool stuff.
Hell
And
yeah.
he he advocated for coming out of the gate swinging with our label and presentation. He just really wanted to do the best that we could, to give us a really good chance at being recognized and noticed, as a startup and in an industry that wasn't getting a lot of attention at the time. And
Yeah.
so I agreed, but there's been a lot of challenges, and sometimes I have some regrets because it's definitely more. It's like 3 to 4 times more expensive than a paper
I
label.
would imagine
Um,
so.
yeah, it's uh, it's a lot more logistically challenging because we have to have everything printed ahead of time.
Yeah.
So if we've had backups, supply chain issues, whatnot, that have pushed back us getting our bottles in time, and we're rushing and scrambling to get our mead bottled, so we can free up space for our next batches.
Right.
And times we haven't even been able to look at the quality of the bottles before we, have to just shove everything in a storage area and then start bottling immediately. And then we're looking at the bottles and we're like, oh, this print's off, or they screw up the color or something. We have no recourse with that, so we're just kind of stuck with the quality of the print that we got. Whether rather than saying like, oh, this is bad, we're going to return it. You got to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of things. Like you said, we can't necessarily reuse the bottles easily, but we get have some customers that return them to us, and we'll just keep them for the next round of that same flavor.
That's really cool.
But if there's anything we want to change on the label, we have to have the company print a new screen, like design a new screen, and
Right.
that's a couple $100 a pop every time we want to do that. So it's an additional cost, to your
Yeah.
labeling. So
But it just know that it does look pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We get a lot of
I
compliments
would
for
hope
sure.
so. Yeah, yeah, it's freaking rad. Um,
I'll
so I was
I'll tell
going through. Go ahead.
you'll be tickled.
What
What
was
was
that?
that? I said I'll tell Tim said that he'll be
Oh
tickled.
yeah, awesome. Um,
Yeah. We get a lot of people that actually save the bottles and do things with them, like put bottle lights or do
yeah,
or something. So I feel like it does feel good in some ways that the bottle itself has, for a lot of people, a life after the mead.
yeah,
Not just
and it looks like it'd be one of those cool bottles for like candle, for like one of those candle bottles where like the candle drippings are in it because you get peaks of the bottle underneath. Yeah, it's
yeah,
100% a repurposable bottle, and that's equally as cool as getting them back because I know one of the hindrances with reusing bottles um, typically is having to be able to get the label off of it and clean it and everything to a certain standard to be able to bring it back. And in your case is already cleaned off and ready to go. You just have to, wash it, sanitize it, and boom, bang, you're ready to go. So
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
pretty pretty good idea for a return program. Have you considered reaching out to any of your not vendors, but I guess your retail agencies and like trying to set up like a collection program?
We floated that early on and we got nothing from stores. Nobody wants
Really?
to, yeah, nobody
Yeah,
wants
I guess
a collection area and hold on to them. We can't guarantee a lot of these stores that will
pickups
be
and
at a specific time. Like we can't show up every day,
right.
same day every whatever. So
Yeah,
that's what we've been able to do is, put it on our website. And then when we, sample with people or sell at the market, tell people that they can bring their
or
bottle back to
if
us.
they bring them back directly to you guys, obviously at the meadery, that'd be fine too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Though we're quite a ways out, so most people wouldn't be inclined to make the trip. But yeah,
yeah,
we'll even incentivize it a little bit if somebody brings me back like a case of bottles. Both
yeah.
I'm impressed that they bought that much mead from us and appreciative of them bringing the bottles
Yeah,
back. So I'll give them a discount for every bottle of mead or something.
sure. Now you guys, yeah, I guess you guys are a little bit, say, out of town, so to speak, but there's another meadery that's not too far from you guys, and it's really cool that there's two meaderies like kind of out in the gorge area, the Columbia River, gorge area, and I'm 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 thinking that's got to be pretty beneficial. Do you guys actually have a tap room there, or no?
No, no, we
Oh,
haven't done any room tap room yet. It's an idea that we've talked about. Might happen someday.
okay.
We, point where we've maxed out our space here on the land for production, and so
Whoa,
what's that?
that's impressive. If you've maxed out your production on the land space that you have, that's is it like
It's a
because of
small.
the building size, or is there a certain like legal size that you're not allowed to go bigger?
No, it's just we had a building here that we were able to convert into the meadery,
Oh, okay.
and we have so much room in here, and barrel aging takes up quite a bit of room.
Hell yeah, it
So
does.
yeah, so we actually have we had to add a separate building for all of our bottled inventory. And so at this point, we don't really have any more expansion room on the land. So then there's a conversation happening of, what to do next. Do we just kind of ride it out at this size for a while and see what happens? Or do we start exploring investing in a bigger space and everything that would come with that?
Yeah. Have you guys seen like I know I'm sure you follow a lot of mead news and whatnot. Are you concerned with the amount of like craft breweries and meaderies that are closing down? Like, are you seeing your numbers, staying steady or going up, or are you guys feeling the craft pinch like everyone else, or like a good majority of everyone else? Not to say everyone.
We've had some ups and downs. I would say last year was a little slower. We were a little concerned at the end of last year looking at our numbers and
Yeah.
how things went, but it was also our biggest year. It was when we actually reached peak.
Okay.
Um, But this year we've actually picked it up a little bit, and I think we're pretty good at the end of this year. So it's come around, especially this since midsummer or so. Um, we've had a couple of really good months this fall, and we've also expanded a little bit outwards as far as where we distribute to. We self-distribute, so that's certainly been a limiting factor.
Self-distribution
But we,
does limit your distance you can go.
oh yeah, yeah, and because it takes a lot of time too to drive multiple hours to these places, and especially if you have like we have a few stores in Seattle now that we sell at, and we
Yep.
need to try to get to all buy mead at the same time when we're up there, so we don't have to drive up every month
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like a 12-hour round trip or something with traffic. It's
Heck
just
yeah, it
all.
is.
Um, but that's helped expanding out into different areas. But also adding a couple new flavors, I think, has gotten some of our old regulars excited and buying
Nice.
a little bit. Yeah. But being
We had a question coming.
small, what's that?
I'd say we had a question coming here whenever.
Sure.
So we got American Stronghold says, "Do you guys use a mead management software like Ecos? Not like a point of sale system, which you guys obviously wouldn't use because you don't have a tap room there. But yeah, how do you manage the inventory? You guys have you Excel users or Google Sheets, or do you actually use like some sort of specific software?
Yeah, we actually use a software called Quip, and
Whip?
Quip. It's a cloud-based
Okay.
software, pretty simple spreadsheets. We don't do Excel. We haven't had to get into the complexities of doing complex, accounting software.
Hmm.
And again, my business partner Tim, that's a little bit more of his arena,
Oh, okay.
why he manages the most part, and that's what his chosen software to use has been. But partly because we were using that prior to even starting the meadery for other things that we were doing, and it's being cloud-based, we were able to share stuff easily. So we
There
were
you
able
go.
to use, and it's free, so that was also helpful.
Hell
Um,
yeah, that's incredibly helpful.
yeah, in the beginning, it's just like using whatever you can that will help you get by, and then at a certain point, you're like, well, we should probably evolve and invest in getting something more complex. But then it's kind of like, well, we know the software, and if it ain't broke, then why fix it? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think we're a little, I don't know, primitive in that sense, but we
Well,
have
it's
talked about do a different software. We might still do that.
it's something that I think is actually just been fairly recently brought to my attention as something that a lot of people are starting to get into or considering something that they, something beyond, looking for something beyond just like spreadsheets and whatnot. And you said that's Quip, QUIP, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for these types of beverage or inventory management systems or um, man, some sort of ERP type system, because it signifies like I don't know what the term for it would be, like a seriousness in the business, like a professionalism, so to speak. And certainly, if there's free ones out there you can use to help, um, you know, not take away capital from an already not necessarily capital friendly business. It's even more beneficial for something like that to be there because I think yeah it's just the way to go. The spreadsheet thing, unless you're like an accountant or something, um, probably not the best.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing that neither one of us are accountants, and I personally loathe doing accounting type stuff. So I was happy
Same.
to just, scratches on paper. But
I got an abacus I use.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fortunately, Tim, at least had a little bit of foresight in that to, create some spreadsheets, and then I think we're maxed out though as far
Yeah.
as the that we do and what those spreadsheets are capable of. So if we did, go to the 2.0 version of this meadery, that would include definitely upgrading our software.
Very cool. Um, so something I was trying to get to a little bit ago. I'm curious. I had watched a short video with one of your associates. She was at I think a farmer's market or probably or something, but she was mentioning something about you guys use almost exclusively, and maybe that was my interpretation, champagne yeast, or do you guys use for
Yeah.
some of your meads, or what yeast do you guys use for your stuff? Because if you guys are doing all dries, I'm sure you're using um, yeast that reflect good. Again, like you said, the flavors that are flavors and characteristics that are going to enhance the terroir from the ingredients and honeys that you're using.
Yeah. We do use mostly champagne yeast, it's true. And
Okay,
then we do that is because it's a pretty neutral yeast. So that allows the honey and the other flavors to come through without alteration from the yeast. So I
gotcha.
appreciated that. We also do a higher alcohol mead. We're at 15.5%
Oh,
with most of our
okay.
meads.
Yeah, that
And
is
so,
higher.
yeah, yeah. So champagne will tolerate that, champagne yeast. Um, let's see, is there another reason? I think there is, but I'm spacing it right now. But yeah, I think primarily for me, it's just that neutrality of that yeast specifically.
And that's
Yeah.
uh, like you were saying earlier on. There's a lot of different flavor palettes out there. A lot of people's palates are, there's lots of different people, lots of different mead preferences, and you guys are making drier meads. And one of the things that I appreciate about a drier mead, I think that some of the different regions, like the sugar belt, and these people that only want these like super heavy dessert style meads, I think there's a lot of subtleness and a lot of um, I want to say complexity, because I think you can get complexity out of a sweeter mead, but there's a lot of subtlety and nuance that comes from drier meads that you don't get in those bigger body full mead. You really do get that like essence of the flowers and the essence of the fruit and the essence of the honey in its almost purest, unadulterated form.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And again, that's, letting the ingredients speak to the flavor profile through the flavor profile rather than trying to alter that through the fermentation process has been one of my goals. And another important ingredient here that we rely on is our water. We have a 300-foot well here that goes into a pristine aquifer in the middle of the mountains, and our water here is the best water I think I've ever had.
Hell yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
from
water's
Washington. I was born and raised in Washington. Washington has the best water, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah, and this is Cascade Mountain water. This
Yeah.
is in these pure, pristine valleys that have no industry, going on, no farming, really nothing to really alter the quality of the water.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer that that's a big part of why our meads are as good as they are. Is just the simple fact that we have really good water.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. I miss so much that out of everything I miss out of the Pacific Northwest, Washington specifically, is that crisp, clean, cool uh, glacier, Cascade Glacier water. Because no matter where you are along the Cascades, I lived up a little closer to Mount Rainier up in Bonnie Lake, Washington, but it was no matter where you go, even for some reason, municipal water tasted better than like anything I've had outside that. I currently live in Virginia, and the water here is uh, less than desirable out of the tap.
Yeah, got some mining tailing remnants in that water there.
Very much so. There's very much my wife and kids get a lot of sulfury type of characteristics out of the water, very minerally, earthy characteristics. Um, I haven't had anything tested yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of lot of mineral content.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're fortunate to have some really good artesian wells too around. There was a well on the highway between Portland and the coast that I used to go to, and I'd
Love it.
literally take a whole bunch of carboys and fill them up with this water right on the side of the highway. It's just
Spring,
a little pipe.
just right there.
Yeah, and that was a thing. And there'd be people, it was just a regularly known spot that people would stop and fill up all their containers and get that really good water. And even though Portland's water wasn't bad, I
Hmm.
just knew that was the best water around that I could get when I was living there in Portland. And um,
Yeah.
that also I think was helpful in my early days of making mead, just using that good stuff. So I'd certainly recommend to any other mead makers out there to not disregard water source.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think water plays as big as a part. I mean, in the trifecta of just a traditional mead, water, honey, yeast, I think water is equally, is equal to the third as the other two is in importance. It can't just be, say 40, 40, and 20, or even more extreme. It's pretty much a third, a third, a third. You're going to pick up those characteristics, and there's going to be a huge difference in your mead if you make it with a blue water versus a clear water versus some sort of less than desirable water.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, so you said you age everything for as close to a year as possible, or 10 months or more, um, and that's to give that unique, cool, awesome barrel characteristic that you don't see in a lot of meads out there. Does that um, prevent you guys from? I what's the way to word it? You have to have some really good foresight and planning to be able to, do bottle releases and batch releases and stuff. Have you found that to be a hindrance in your business model, or is it you've like really dialed in and got it figured out at this point?
Yeah, I'd say it's de-incentivized, doing as many new flavors as we might otherwise if we were doing fast turnaround stuff. I would be more likely to break out more of my proven formulas and recipes, to keep those customers who always love trying new stuff happy, because we do get a lot of requests for new flavors, and we're up to a dozen now. Um, and we haven't really done special release stuff. It's just kind of like over time we've just added a new flavor. One year we'll decide to do something, and I have to prepare for it, so I have to kind of refine my recipe and figure out the year before how I'm going to scale it up. So I have to figure out the ratio and stuff. And then the following year, I will make it because, again, we're hand harvesting usually ingredients or using fresh stuff. So I can't just get the ingredients anytime. So I
Right.
might, one summer, try it out, do some experimental batches. The next summer, if it works out and I figure out the formula, I'll make it. Assuming again I got approval from the TTB to use the ingredients, and then it's another year before we can bottle it. So it's a multi-year process for us to add a new flavor
That's
to the mix.
a
So
fucking commitment, bro. Like, I see places that are coming out with, new flavor every week or every other week, it seems like. Do you feel that you guys are being, like, I say left behind, but put at a disadvantage for that? But to be fair, these guys also aren't going out and hand harvesting, the vast majority of their ingredients. I assume you guys you're not using exclusively all honey that you guys are harvesting from your own hives, are you? I mean, that would be
no,
like an
no, I only have like 20,
astronomical amount of honey.
yeah, I have like 20 beehives, so I'm
Oh,
doing
okay.
maybe 5 to 10% of the honey, depending on the year
That's
of our.
still a good, a bigger chunk than I was thinking you were going to say.
Yeah, yeah, it depends on the year how well the bees do, but all the other honey we're getting local varietals also from local
Right.
beekeepers. So it kind of depends on what they have from year to year as well,
Yeah.
and so that does play a factor, in our flavors as well. We're always trying to pair things together. We're always trying to look at, where
Yeah.
are coming from, what kinds of honeys are available, how would those work together in synergy to create a good profile, flavor profile, and then are those things even available from year to year? Do they line up? Can I get that honey at the same time that this other thing I'm harvesting or getting from farmers? And so,
Gotcha.
you know,
Hmm.
in answering the question, I think that looking at just who has come and who has gone in the years that we've been around, I don't see a problem with our model, as far as finding some tried and true flavors and really focusing on doing them the best we can. Slowly introducing new flavors that we've taken the time and care to perfect,
Yeah.
um, and not worrying about having something new every week or every month. Um, I
Yeah.
think a lot of those are just they're just kind of shots in the dark, and they're not proven recipes, and a lot of them
Mm.
don't go over that well. And there's probably a lot of waste in the companies that are trying to do that all the time. And I'm not saying that to say that they shouldn't be. Everybody has their own approach,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I think I have seen a number of those meaderies come and go, just in the 8 years or so that we've been around.
I yeah, I believe it certainly takes a not just a creative mind, but it takes a certain type of um, it takes somebody equally as dedicated to their craft as you are to going out and harvesting, wild crafting your ingredients and putting together all this thought to somebody who's going to be doing a release like that. Now, they obviously can't collect their ingredients to the same caliber that you are going out and harvesting everything, but it definitely takes a certain panache, a certain je ne sais quoi to be able to focus in something like that. I think there's room for both of those types of meaderies out there. It's more about the people putting their passion into a quality product that they're putting out, versus necessarily the style or type it is. Because I think you've, like you just mentioned, you've proven that you know a, a solid business model with a continually consistent quality product is going to continue to bring back customers, regardless of whether it's bone dry or dessert sweet or anything like that. People can sense and people can pick up on quality, and that's what drives them in.
Yeah, we certainly have a large enough sector of society that appreciates that about us, that we've been able to continue to expand and have success. I will say though that I would give a shout out to this meadery, but I'm spacing the name of it right now. They're in Seattle, and this guy has a meadery, a tasting room in Seattle, and he does some really interesting flavors. And he is one of those
Mr.
people
B's,
that, what's that?
Mr. B,
Yeah, yeah, Mr. B.
yeah, Brandon's the
Um,
shit. I love Brandon.
he does some good stuff, and but I think part of the secret to his success is he's doing some really small batches. He'll do a 5 gallon batch. He has no qualms about
Yep.
cracking that open at his tasting room, and it sticks around as long as it does. But for us, in our capacity, that wouldn't work now having a tasting room. So we can't invest the kind of
Right.
money that we do for a 5 gallon batch. If we're going to do it, we have to make sure that it's going to be worth it to do multiple barrels of something.
Right.
So, um,
Well, and then again, with your commitment to your printed labels on your bottles, I mean, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I said it's a I feel like a my terminology, a dangerous move forward, or I feel like scared to do something like that because like it's so finite, so permanent, so you're committed to it when you do it that way. But it also takes a step back from the other side and says like I'm committed to this, and I'm so committed to this that I know it's going to be a good product, that I know this is going to be something that people want and desire, that I'm willing to commit to that bottle that is 4 times the cost of a bottle plus a printed label landed on my doorstep. So I, man, again, kudos to you guys for that, and I think it's equally as unique and cool as anything that Brandon is doing up there,
yeah,
or
again, like
or
you
any of the
said,
people from the Skull group.
what's that?
Anybody that goes to those skull meetings, the Seattle I think the Washington mead scene is probably one of the most slept on mead scenes. There's so many cool, unique meaderies in Washington, from you guys and Anarchy down there on the coast, up to well, I guess Artivum's closed down up there in Bellingham, but like Opagard and Mr. B's up in the Seattle area, and Hierophant. The Western Washington mead scene is just out of control.
Yeah, yeah, I've been impressed. I have been pleased to do the Skull, mead events that they've had and get to schmooze with the other meaderies and try some of their stuff. And um, I don't know what it is, but there's certainly some magic happening here. And it's
It,
funny because I'm from Michigan originally, and I hear that there's quite a mead scene in Michigan. I've not
oh,
really explored it, but I know there is quite a bit of meaderies, quite a few meaderies going on there.
I was just in Detroit over the summer, and like Schramm's is there, possibly one of the most well-known meaderies, just because Ken Schramm wrote the book. I mean, you got Maniacal Meadery right over in Ypsilanti. There's another meadery, B Nectar, that's right there, also in Detroit. Just a few miles from Schramm, Superior Lakes. You can get up into towards the UP is B Well. Is that BOS? Is out there, St. Ambrose. Yeah, Detroit, the greater Detroit area has a lot, and then yeah, Michigan as a whole has just a ton of meaderies.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you could say then it's in my DNA to a certain extent to be doing this. It's nice.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah.
and response to your question about the label,
Mm.
we are actually have started doing a couple paper labels. So all
Cool. How about
you
carbonated
know,
meads?
was that?
Carbonated meads. Champagne can be carbonated.
Um, well, not carbonated yet, but
I mean, is that
the
something you guys are also considering for potential future projects? Sorry, I should have specified that. My mistake.
no. I will say that the Tej, because it's a wild ferment, so this is a cool aspect of that mead.
Heck yeah.
I've
Uh-oh,
been working
I lost the
pretty
audio.
good so far. It does lend itself to a little bit of natural carbonation because there's a little variation in the yeast and how it functions, and I guess it has more tolerance than I originally assumed or thought it did
Oh
in my
wow.
research. So that's actually a yeast coming on the herb from Ethiopia that we sourced.
That's that the what the I always want to say gecko, but it's not like the lizard gecko. It's like
Right,
the
Gesho.
gesho. There it is. Gesho, the gesho root. And then do you guys have one of those really cool clay vessels that it's supposed to be served in and all that stuff?
Not yet, not yet.
Ah,
One of these
but it's coming.
days. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, at least it's yeah. Yeah, I've
Yeah, if you
I've had
know where to source one. I actually was at an Ethiopian restaurant in Portland 2 weeks ago
mm,
and met a guy who's making his own tej now. He just started, a young guy, young Ethiopian
hell
guy, and
yeah.
uh, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So we traded some mead and talked shop, but he's also using Gesho and I think it's a really cool herb. It's got like a hoppy vibe to it, and I actually use some hops in this tej also. It's kind of a Cascadia version, Cascadian tej, you could call
Nice.
it. Yeah, and so anyways, it does have a little natural carbonation,
Hmm.
and I've considered doing carbonated. I actually really enjoy drinking carbonated mead. It's just one of those things that requires more equipment, specialized equipment, and
For sure.
a different type of bottle and container. And so again, with our space limitations, we've held off. But if it comes to pass that we move into a bigger space, that could very well be an avenue that we take as well.
Now you guys um mostly use 750 bottles. Do you put the Tej in that as well, or do you guys like drop down to a 500 ml bottle or
No, nope, same
750s
bottle
for
size,
everything?
same type of bottle, just paper label on that one for now.
Gotcha. That's really cool. I've only had a handful of Tejas. I think maybe two commercial ones. Yeah, I think two commercial and then maybe one or two homebrew. And it's yeah, like you said, it has this kind of unique, earthy hoppiness to it that you don't really get from anything. And that's obviously like the Gesho root. Was that really hard to source for you guys, or is it something that you found aligning? Because I've seen in different like online posts and like Reddit and different communities that there's are consistently people out there looking for it. So have somebody who has not looked for it, that kind of gives me the impression that it's not the easiest thing to come by.
Well, we're fortunate out here in the West Coast to have a couple of pretty vibrant Ethiopian communities.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
Seattle, there's a spot up there I found that carries it.
Nice.
There's actually a place in Portland that carries it sometimes, but he didn't have it the last time I was looking for it. And then in San Francisco, there's a big Ethiopian supplier, online supplier. They carry all kinds of stuff. And that one's really cool. I think it's a woman-run cooperative out of San Francisco,
Oh, nice.
Oakland, probably Oakland. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Very cool. And is that something you guys are is newer to the lineup? I think you said this is the first time. Is it something you're adding on a permanent basis, or just kind of see how it goes, or
Um, it's I don't know.
potentially
Yeah, we'll see how it
seasonally
goes.
available?
Everything's to see how it goes, If it doesn't go and
Right.
it doesn't continue. But
Yeah.
I have confidence because we've gotten a lot of good feedback on this one. So I think we can be pretty sure that it's going to stick around.
Now, being that your style is so um, time heavy, with aging and everything like that, it seems like you guys probably don't do a lot of, say, like you were mentioning, other places doing like 5 gallon batches to get some, feedback on smaller batches, before you upscale to something larger. Do you do anything to, kind of gauge on a flavor before you commit to a full scale assault on that flavor, so to speak?
Oh yeah, we have a big barn burner bash out here every time we have a new flavor
Oh,
experiment, and
there
just
you go.
let everybody drink their fill and then get feedback.
Cool.
Not
That's a
exactly, but I do try to share far and wide the experiments that I do to see what people think,
gotcha.
and then I take the feedback I get and use it to do any alteration I might do, and yeah,
Yeah.
so
You've been doing this
yeah,
long enough now. You've got a pretty consistent or a pretty good grasp on how to make a consistent product and like how to take that information, that feedback you get from these um, for the people that are sampling your experimental batches to be able to dial it in for your upscaled full uh, production run.
I've been pretty confident that if we come up with a flavor combo that we think is going to work, that we can alter it to make it work. So, it's usually
Nice.
we're usually using a couple of ingredients besides honey beyond our traditional mead,
Mhm.
and it's often just a matter of getting the combination right with the honey and the one or two other ingredients, potentially altering the oak that comes into it, in the barrels.
Mhm.
We often use neutral barrels. We don't really need to do much oaking, but sometimes I'll put staves in, or I might rotate out an older barrel and get a new one, and or a lightly used one or something that has some
Mhm.
oak left in it, if I want to add some oak. So
Do you use
um,
any like new white French oak barrels or anything like that, or are they all like reconditioned, repurposed barrels?
I have tried new barrels, but it's way too much oak
Oh,
for the amount of time that we want to age. It just
yeah.
it's yeah, it's too much. So I've done a couple things. I have put mead into new barrels, and then after a month, 2 month, 3 month, whatever, transferred it to a neutral barrel.
Hmm.
But I think it's easier to just add staves as needed. You can kind of alter it as you go. And I don't
Yeah.
like taking much of a chance transferring mead. You know, it's just too much of a risk with the oxidation and stuff, I think. Um,
Hmm.
so,
You're really
yeah,
Are you really worried about oxidization? Are you like really fruit forward? It's been my understanding from the people I've talked to and a little bit of personal experience that unless you're going something like really fruit forward, oxidization isn't, too huge of a risk because
I
honey
think,
is a natural antioxidant.
yeah, I still think though that there is that risk with all meats. So,
That's fair. It's something I personally need to definitely look into a lot more and sample get more experience in making my own batches. I'm only about 18 to 20 batches in, and I definitely need to get a lot more practice, especially with fruited meads. You you my favorite one from the lineup I saw. If you have a bit more time, it's already 9 o'clock. I'd like to get in at least a couple more of your flavor profiles because I think you have some really cool flavors that you don't see a lot of other places.
yeah, and I want to mention that I just saw that my phone's down to
Oh,
10%, so I
oh crap!
apologize for that. But this, for some reason, this video just sucked through my battery. I had like a full
Yeah, no
battery going.
worries. Well, I would love to be able to have you back on and continue a conversation sometime in the future.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Good
Well,
job.
anybody who's out there watching this, please go give them a follow there at Melchemy Craft Mead. They're on all the social medias that you can find them on. Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining me tonight. I had a wonderful time talking to you.
Likewise, Ty. I appreciate you inviting us on. It was really fun, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do a little binge watch of all your back videos now to see what
Well,
other meaderies are up to.
that might be kind of a commitment I've been doing for a couple of years. But hey, yeah, definitely go back and watch some ones. There's a ton of interesting videos out there, and I appreciate the thought of even doing something like that. So, have a wonderful rest of your night. And like I said, I'll reach out to you here in a little bit, and we'll try to get something else scheduled for the future.
Okay, sounds good. Much
Yep.
appreciation, and take care.
Have a
See
good
you
rest
next
of your night.
time.
Yep.
You too.
All right. Wonderful interview with Melchemy Craft Mead, Jeff. There, probably one of the more interesting places making mead out there with all almost exclusively from my interpretation of our conversation, wild crafted or potentially your terminology foraged, collected, gathered ingredients there in the Columbia River Gorge area of Washington State. They're between um, just east of the port. I mean, that's a really unique area. A lot of their that climate probably don't find a lot of other places. Man, I'm just taken aback by that the dedication to barrel aging everything for a good number of months, 9, 10 months, the gathering of wildcrafted ingredients, the dedication to a high ABV mead, the dedication to creating a quality dry mead product at that's going to show through the terroir of the ingredients, the soils, the honeys, the flowers, all those essenced flavors from making those a dry ingredient. It looks like one thing I didn't get to ask him was I see that they have I would say their business message, but they have a statement on there that says mead a synthesis of purpose, and I thought it was kind of odd. Seems like a kind of just thrown together statement. But even after talking to him, I kind of get what the purpose of that statement is they are synthesizing a product purposefully through a dedication of handcrafted ingredients, not handcrafted, I'm sorry, hand gathered ingredients, hand gathered honey some of the time. Just a real dedication to putting flavor profiles together and creating a wonderful product. The one I wanted, the flavor profile I wanted to get into first of all was an apricot cinnamon mead. As somebody who's made an apricot mead and really liked the way it turned out, I was curious about how they were gathering those apricots because picking apricots by hand is not an easy thing. Uh, Apricots are very finicky, very delicate to pull off of fall off the tree and whatnot. So that seems like a really cool thing that they're doing over there. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining me tonight, TK and Drinks. I'll be back next week. I said last week that I was going to be here with a review this week, but um, I looked at my calendar wrong and I realized that I had this interview this week. So next week, I will be back with a live review of some meads, and we'll go from there, close out the year, and have a wonderful time. So thank you everybody for joining me tonight, and I will see you guys next week for some live reviews. Y'all have a wonderful night.